Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Steadfast Podcast. I am Jessie Evans, a psychotherapist, and I own Steadfast Christian Counseling here in Charleston, South Carolina. Hope you guys are doing well today. I am coming off of, it's the day after Halloween here. So it's November 1st, and this podcast will air on Tuesday the 5th. So a few days after I record this, but we had a Halloween party here last night, which is not our norm, but it was awesome. But we had my son's 12U baseball team here and all the parents, and we had a great time. We ended up probably with like 40 or 50 people here. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you're seeing the real me because I look a mess this morning. But I was just kind of inspired to go ahead and record this episode because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately personally, and just kind of heading into the holidays. But yeah, so here it is. So I look a mess in my backyard. If you see my backyard right now, I mean, we look like a frat house, but just like change out like the beer cans for like Gatorade and water bottles. But my backyard it's going to be a while to get that cleaned up today. Anywho, all right. So let's jump in. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are at Steadfast first and what our plan is for this month of November for our podcast. So here at Steadfast, we are committed to providing excellent clinical care. And the other part of what we do is we're very passionate about sharing quality psychoeducational resources. We want to strengthen the community. We want to strengthen a church community. We want to strengthen the community at large. We want to be an emotionally healthier community here in Charleston and beyond. And we want our churches to be emotionally healthy here. That's a huge part of the drive behind all the content that we put out and what we do. So if you go to our website, you can check out more resources there. We have our trauma-informed church training, which we are super passionate about. And I hope like we can get in the hands of so many church leaders to go through with their teams and just sort of learn how to build a safe church model and a safe church flow chart for when things come up and just kind of what to do in those situations. But it's over 4 hours of content, that training. And it's just really full of a lot of kind of inner work as you go through. And you can kind of learn your own blind spots and places that you need to grow in. And it's a great thing to go through, especially as a team. So highly recommend that. And then we also have our trauma-informed classroom training and our emotionally steadfast family, which all of those trainings are really rooted in attachment theory. And they kind of go through the steps of how do I build secure attachments with those folks that are in my care, whether that be my students or my kids. We want people to feel so safe in our presence that they feel freedom to just be who they are and say what they think and mess up. And so those are just great practical trainings that we have that kind of guide you through that. Okay. So also, if you're watching on YouTube today, you're probably going to see members of my family walk around behind me because we're all home today hanging. I mean, some of the kids are at school. They didn't want to go, but my homeschool child is here. My husband's here. So the gang's here today. Okay. So let's talk about what we're going to get into in November. Today I'm going to kind of talk about some things that have been on my heart individually about being more present and kind of setting intention for this season for the family and just really being focused on connection as a family. for the next 2 weeks after this, our trauma therapists are going to grab the mic, and they're going to get into just kind of addressing all the sticky stuff that comes around the holiday season. So, you might be triggered in certain situations, and then they're going to help you understand what a trigger actually feels like. And they're going to help you to learn just some practical tools to kind of set boundaries during this holiday season, which is so important. And then finally, to close out the month, I'm going to be joined by my friend Benton, and he's going to share his very inspiring recovery journey. And he's going to talk about how to handle the pressures of alcohol consumption that come during the holidays. So that's going to be just a great episode as well. I've known him for a few years, and he just mentioned to me at the soccer fields, our kids play soccer together, and he was like, hey, I would be willing to share my story on your podcast if you would like that. And so just so gracious and generous for him to be vulnerable in that way. And I know like it's going to bless a lot of people. So this month is going to be awesome. It's going to be full of learning and growth. So make sure if you're not subscribed to the podcast on iTunes, and we're also on Spotify, if that's where you like to listen, that you go ahead and do that so you don't miss any of these episodes. We're making an effort to make our episodes a little bit shorter so that you can get them like on a walk or, on your commute to this place or that place. And so that's our goal. So, all right, with that in mind, let's dive in. So today we're going to focus on how families can stay present, connected, and peaceful during the holidays. And it's this attachment idea of we want to build safety within the family so that we then experience freedom. So there's this kind of, these two things sort of running together. So with this connected, peaceful feeling also comes the freedom to set boundaries during the holidays. So I have just been kind of over probably the last couple weeks, just kind of this idea keeps coming in my mind of just getting back to the mindfulness practices of just staying in the moment. Like for me, like just the way that I'm kind of wired, I've always been kind of like a future thinker. Like I kind of am, and as a business owner, like I think that's part of our responsibility is to sort of be thinking, down the road, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, where are we going kind of thing. Like as kind of a visionary person by nature, my mind is always kind of in the future. And it's always been hard for me to kind of stay where my feet are. But with that can come a lot of stress. And also you miss a lot of things. And so Corey and I have 5 kids, and it's just really important for me to really fight that with the family and try to be present. And a lot of that also comes with the decision to we need to put our phones down. We need to when I have a 5-minute ride to take this kid from here to there, pretend like we're back in the 80s and have a conversation with them about whatever. And when we do that, when we set the intention to be present, so many beautiful things come from that, and some pushback as well, as we'll get into. But okay, so we know that the holidays can bring joy and stress. That's no secret. What I want to talk about is how to stay present and connected while also feeling the freedom to set healthy boundaries. Even in the face of social pressures and in this time of social media. And I mean, there's so many social pressures around the holidays. So, okay. So first let's talk about, setting an intentional tone for the holiday season. So often we get caught up in the busyness. And before we know it, we're overwhelmed and we're feeling disconnected. So how can we stay rooted in what really matters? It is so hard to not get swept up in all the things. We were on the way to school this morning, and my 5-year-old, so my 7-year-old wanted to play a Halloween song on the way. And I was like, we can't, it's November 1st. Like, we can't play a Halloween song. Halloween's over. And then Henry, my 5-year-old, starts going, it's the most wonderful time. And I was like, son, we're also not ready to sing Christmas songs yet. So to really kind of not get swept up into all the parties, all the things, all the busyness, all the invitations, all the visual distraction is really hard. It's really hard. So I'm going to give you some tips on how can we try to stay a little bit more rooted during this time of year. So the first thing is we're going to talk about is kind of setting intention. So we want to start with meaning and values. So take a minute, and this would be really cool to do like as a family, like have a little family meeting and talk about what is the most important thing to you this season. Like maybe have everyone write it on a card or think about it for a second and then take turns sharing that. Maybe for your family, it's quality time together, meaningful traditions that you do. Maybe it's like creating a peaceful and joyful atmosphere. It could be any number of things. So we ask yourselves, like, what do we want to feel during the holidays? That's a great place to start. What emotion what do we want to feel? Like, what do we want, like, the atmosphere to be? And then once we have that, then we can say, okay, how do we protect that? How do we protect that? And that gives you some kind of a meaningful starting place to setting your boundaries. So by having this conversation, you're not just planning activities. Like that's not what we're doing here. You're building emotional connection and you're setting a shared vision as a family for what do we want our holiday season to feel like this year is a very interesting question. Okay. So staying present and connected, staying mindful during the holidays, it's so hard. As moms listening here, like the to-do lists are like, they're endless, right? Like I got a call yesterday because the class parties have started. I was at the library with my homeschool student. She was there for her reading lesson, and I see a phone call come through from the elementary school, and I just thought, oh, it's probably just an automated thing. So I just sent it to voicemail. And then boom, a call comes through again from the school again. And I'm like, oh no, somebody's at the nurse. So I pick it up and I answer the phone, and it's my 9-year-old. And she's like, Mom, my teacher said that you signed up to bring cupcakes for the party and you forgot to bring them. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I was like, okay, what time's the party? And she told me, I was like, we can do it. So we just hustled around our town and we got them delivered. But things fall through the cracks for me. But the to-do lists are, they're endless right now. There's so many things that need to be done. And it's hard to stay present, to stay mindful, but there are small intentional things that you can do that make a big difference. Okay. So we talked about a second ago, no phone transportation. And it can be so hard because the kids just want to like grab my phone and like play music or watch something or whatever. And to have no phone transportation where we're going from this place to this place with no phones, and they'll push back on you initially, at least mine do. I don't have anything to do. I'm bored. But then if you wait a second, then the conversations start happening. You could do a no phone dinner where you focus on real conversations. I had a friend last night that was talking about how her 12-year-old was like, we are watching a movie together and there are no phones. Phones are going in the bucket. So kids are craving this connection as well. We need to put our phones down. That is so big. You can also start each day with a moment of gratitude. This is something that I've been trying to do. Like, as soon as my eyes open in the morning, I want to like kind of sit in thankfulness for a second, just thank you, Lord. Like, I had my, of course, last night was trick or treat. So I was just waiting to see which one would come down, in the middle of the night with a tummy ache. But, I had one, I opened my eyes this morning and my 7-year-old's curled up next to me. And immediately I'm just like, oh man, thank you. Like, thank you for just the blessing of what we are able to do, like with these kids right now. Like, thank you. So there's so much power in not like just hitting the ground running, but to sit just for a second and just thank the Lord, like for the things that he's blessed us with. You can do this as a family, which is super powerful. And it's a perfect thing to do in November. I have a friend who has like a jar, and she has like little prompts on these popsicle sticks. And it's just like a way to kind of get to this place of thankfulness and gratitude. Because we know that we enter his courts with thanksgiving. It's such a barrier breaking thing with our connection with the Lord, and then also with our connection with other people, is just to kind of take a moment and just realize like, wow, okay, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. Let's talk for a second about attachment. I mean, if you've heard me on this podcast at all, I come back around to that a lot, but I think it's so important. We need to remember our attachment needs. Our kids and us and our spouses, we need to feel seen, we need to feel safe, and we need to feel valued. Those are the things that are the ingredients for like true deep joy. I'm not talking about happiness. I'm talking about like that deeper, although happiness is a part of it, but I'm talking about that deeper security, that deeper joy, right? So feeling seen, feeling safe, feeling valued, cannot happen if we are running around like a bunch of chickens with our heads cut off and we are not paying attention to one another during this season. So take those moments to cut out the distractions so that as a family, we can feel seen, safe, and valued. Sometimes it's the simple things like watching a holiday movie together or making hot chocolate, that become special moments. I know I have like a set of mugs that I got from the dollar store, and I only get them out during the holiday season. But those mugs like mean like we get to have like yummy, warm, hot chocolate together. We get to have quality time together. So it's just little things. Okay. So navigating social pressures, and I want to talk a little bit about cognitive distortions here for a second. So we're going to talk about the shoulds. So let's tackle one of the biggest challenges of the season. It's the social pressures. It's social media, people. It's what we're noticing that so many other people are doing. It's the comparison trap. And there's so many cognitive distortions around that. And you hear probably therapists say this all the time, but we should all over ourselves. Sorry, during this season. Those should statements like pop up, and you need to recognize them. And you need to be able to, when you hear should in your thought process, or you feel like I should do this or that, like that is also an indicator to dive more deeply into that and really think through that statement. Because we should, did you just hear me say should? We do things because they're the right choices for our family. We don't do things because we feel pressure to do them from sources that should not be controlling our choices. Okay. So here are some examples. We should visit everyone this year. We should host the perfect dinner. We should spend all day with extended family because we always have. We should have all of these decorations up. We should do ... I mean, I bet if you did this exercise with a friend or with your spouse, like you could probably come up with like 10 to 15 shoulds around the holiday season. These pressures are real, like they're real, but they're so subtle and sneaky that sometimes we don't even realize that they are steering our ship. And we just need to bring some more awareness to that. They can make the holidays feel so out of control, like kind of like a minefield or something. Here's the thing. These shoulds often come from cognitive distortions, like all or nothing thinking or people-pleasing stuff. And we've got to challenge them. We've got to challenge these distortions. So this is a little bit of CBT for you. We've got to ask ourselves, is this expectation really serving our family's well-being and joy, or is it just adding stress? And if you've done the exercise that we had before, that can be kind of a barometer for you. Like, is this thing serving our family's goal for what we want our holiday season to feel like or be like? And if it's not, then it's okay to drop that thing off the side this year. Every holiday season does not have to look exactly the same. Try reframing with both and thinking. Okay? It's a little DBT for you. So, for example, we can both honor some old traditions and we can create new ones that work better for us now. Or we can both enjoy family gatherings and also take time to rest. So give yourself this flexibility, okay? Practice flexibility in your thinking, and it really can feel so freeing to you. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about setting boundaries, but I want you to know that our trauma therapists are coming on for the next 2 weeks and they're going to dive more deeply into this, but we're going to scratch the surface. So let's move on to one of the most empowering skills of the holidays, and that's setting healthy boundaries. So it can be hard, right? Especially when you worry about disappointing other people, if that's a thing for you, which it is for most of us. But remember, boundaries are an act of love. They protect your family's emotional well-being. I'm going to try not to go into too much on this rabbit trail, but we are going to have a women's retreat in January, and we're so excited about it. We're going to be talking more about it as we lead up to it. But the theme for our women's retreat is grace and space. And we're going to be talking about kind of grace and space in 3 different buckets. So the first bucket is the grace and space that we have afforded to us as children of God, and what that actually looks like, that secure attachment relationship that we have within the Godhead. And then we're also going to be talking about how to extend grace and space to ourselves. And kind of, if you think about the movie Inside Out, one of our internal family systems therapists is going to talk about, like, how can we interact with our internal emotional family and really experience that grace and space within. Knowing how safe we are as children of God really gives us the fuel to be able to do that. But then the third bucket is our sisterhood in the faith, and really learning practical strategies for now having the freedom to provide that grace and space to one another. And that's this boundary piece. There is definitely a belief there, a negative belief that boundaries are mean or they're like not nice, but that is simply not true. And so to be able to respect one another and honor one another in that, and honor ourselves in that when there are things that we need and we need to ask for, is just such a beautiful way to love one another as believers. And so we're going to get into that at our women's retreat. We're so excited about it. I think the date is January 24th. You can go ahead and mark your calendar for that. It's going to be a 1-day retreat, and we are super pumped. But this boundary piece is so important. And so when you set boundaries, you want to communicate with clarity and compassion. So here's a practical way to do it. So let's say you're feeling pressure to stay too late at a gathering. Okay, you know, like this party typically is going to drag on, and so you just know you're not going to be down for it. So here's something you might say. So we'd love to be there for dinner, and we can't wait. It's going to be super fun, but we're going to need to leave by 8. We've got to stick to our family's evening routine. And so that is something that is clear, kind, and confident in your messaging. You've been able to identify, yeah, we want to come and hang out, like it's going to be awesome. But you also know that you've got some needs within your family that you've got to prioritize. And so you're able to confidently share that message. And here's another great one. Give yourself permission. It's okay to prioritize your family's needs and your needs. You don't have to apologize or feel guilty for wanting a season that's joyful and restful. Boundaries can actually enhance your connection with others because you're able to show up more present and less resentful when you do show up. So if you think about it, like if I always feel pressured to be in a situation, like there are so many parts of my internal family that are like resistant and don't want to be there, right? But if I set a boundary and I decide like, no, this works for me. This is going to be where I'm going to feel the most freedom to like be myself and have fun and rest and be there in this way. When you're there, it's going to enhance your connection with other people because you're going to show up more present. Staying connected as a family unit. So even with boundaries in place, holiday stress is still going to creep in. That's why it's essential to have ways to stay emotionally connected as a family. I'm going to give you a few things right here. So anchor together during stressful moments. So before you head into a gathering, just consider like talking through things together. Remember to talk about like what your intention was for the season. Maybe have a prayer as a family. Maybe breathe a little bit and just kind of regulate that nervous system. And also you can kind of create a word, like almost like an exit word, like for your family, like when someone is ready to go, like maybe there's like something that you do, like a handshake or I put my hand on your shoulder or something, but you're able to communicate when it's time to pause and regroup or head to the house. Create rituals of comfort and connection. So Mandy, in her episodes during October, talked a little bit about rituals and the power there. And so these don't have to be elaborate. It could be something as simple as a family movie night, baking cookies together, taking a walk to look at holiday lights. These rituals can ground you and they can remind you of what truly matters. Remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly and it's not about doing everything. It's just about learning to be present in the moments that you have together. Okay. Okay. So let's land the plane here. So as we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. The holidays are an important time to be intentional about connection. Prioritize presence over perfection. I have this thing in my bathroom that says grace over perfection. Presence over perfection. Challenge those societal expectations that do not serve you. Set your intention for what you want your holiday season to feel like. And then the things that don't match up with that, it's okay to let them go. Give yourself permission to let those things go and to set boundaries that honor your family's needs. If this has been helpful to you today, would you just let me know? You can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Please share this episode with those who might need a little bit more encouragement this season. And please know that we are here at Steadfast to support you. We want to wish you guys a season filled with peace, joy, and meaningful connections. Thank you for joining me on the Steadfast Podcast. Until next time, take care and stay steadfast.